Pop star Ariana Grande has filed a lawsuit against two identified hackers who she claims leaked unreleased music and video and studio footage after gaining access to her collaborators' computers. This is a very interesting lawsuit, and I want to get the opinion of attorney Seth Berman. He joins me now for the very latest on this. Seth, great to see you. So what's your reaction to this lawsuit that Ariana Grande has filed against these unidentified hackers?
Well, I mean, it's certainly a prudent move on her part. Unfortunately, a lot of entertainers and artists and celebrities are unfortunately the victim of hacking. Obviously, there's a high demand for unreleased material or confidential material. And her and her legal team decided to finally take action in an attempt to put a stop to it. So I certainly think it's a prudent move on her part, at least based on the allegations that I understand. She's been a victim of multiple hacks and has had a significant amount of material stolen from her over the past few years.
Mm-hmm. So she's suing anonymous John Does. How can you sue people whose identities aren't known? How does that case work out?
Sure. So it's not an uncommon tactic where a potential defendant, for whatever reason, is unknown. And so civil procedure allows attorneys and plaintiffs to file a lawsuit without knowing exactly who the defendant is at the time of filing. But it allows the attorneys to go through what we call the discovery process, which is essentially a fact-finding and investigative process to ultimately find out who those individuals are and who will ultimately be named as defendants in the lawsuit. Mm-hmm. So in this instance, it's likely her attorneys will serve subpoenas on internet service providers, maybe digital payment providers, all in an attempt to obtain information to ultimately identify who the ultimate hackers may be.
What I also found interesting was that this lawsuit says collaborators, not Ariana Grande herself, were hacked. Does that change this legal case in any way?
Not necessarily. There's still remedies available to Miss Grande as a result of it being her material. Whether it's her as a collaborator, she would still potentially be a co-author of a copyright, or if she is the subject of an image, there are name and likeness rights that belong to her individually, notwithstanding a collaborator. So if anything, it may expand the scope of who potentially could bring a claim. And at least with regards to her material, when it comes to the music, she certainly would have potentially future copyright infringement claims as well.
Artists go to great lengths to keep their new music a secret so that, they can release it. Does this case set a precedent?
I mean, hopefully it does. Certainly, like I said, Miss Grande is not the only victim of these kinds of hacking activities. And so, you hope that it sets an example if her and her legal team are able to ultimately identify the hackers and obtain a judgment against them. So she has brought a civil suit, but these actions also are potentially criminal if proven to be true.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you, if this could become a criminal lawsuit. So, what kind of evidence would they have to find in order for it to qualify as criminal?
Well, ultimately, you would have to have the authorities decide that there's enough evidence to take on a prosecution. So Ms. Grande has brought a civil lawsuit under this particular California statute that allows her to seek remedies for these actions. Sometimes there are parallel rights where there are criminal offenses that are prosecuted by the government, but also victims of those offenses could bring civil suits. So in this case, if the authorities in California believe there's enough evidence, they may take on a prosecution as well. There's different burdens of proof, though. There's a stricter and higher burden of proof in a criminal case versus civil case.
There was one song fantasized by her that had become viral. It was leaked. It went viral on platforms like TikTok. Are they held liable for any of this if it's leaked, or they just can't be held liable for that?
It depends under what theory of law, but generally no. At least from a copyright perspective, there's a law called the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, which is a provision of the Copyright Act that grants safe harbor to digital service providers when infringing material is placed on their platform by its users, so long as they follow certain protocols and ultimately follow those protocols and take down the infringing work. So that's generally the So generally, no, they usually wouldn't be held liable because there's no direct knowledge of this work being either stolen or being infringing.
I know that she still has to identify the hackers, but if she were to win, what kind of damages and remedies is she seeking?
So under this particular statute, my understanding is she can seek compensatory damages. There are punitive damages available, potentially attorney's fees, and injunctive relief against any further distribution or exploitation of her property or works.
Well, it is a really interesting case given that a lot of these celebrity hacking and content leak cases become more prevalent. Seth Berman, appreciate your insight. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me.